Happy New Year! You know, pretty much every year since I started making Digimon videos, I have done a tier list of the new Digimon from that year. However, I think the tier list format is just so played out at this point, and you can see that I've done a lot less tier lists over the course of the past 2 years. But I still feel so passionate, and I want to keep up the tradition of talking about all the new Digimon that we get each year, because it's really exciting and a great way to end the year. So instead, I'm retiring the tier list format, and instead just want to talk about how cool all these new Digimon are, explain them in some aspects to you, and also maybe try and give you some elements and info on them that you haven't thought about. Who knows, maybe you'll find your new favorite Digimon in today's video, or maybe you'll come to appreciate a Digimon that you didn't initially like. Happy Holidays! What is up, digital companions? My name is Karn EX and welcome back to your final video of 2024. Unless there's a tiny chance I have to upload it at the very start of 2025. Either way, it's going to be here. And yes, we're talking about all the Digimon introduced in 2024. That is specifically Digimon that we saw for the first time in 2024. There are going to be a couple on this list that haven't been fully introduced, but I want to be as comprehensive as possible. I always kind of talk about Digimon that we've seen, even if we've just seen them, and then if there's more information in 2025, I talk more about them then. This also isn't going to be in alphabetical or chronological order. It's going to be kind of in groups, and we're going to begin with Digimon Vpets. Last year on the Digimon Pendulum Color, we got Tlalokmon, which was created as a new level 7 or ultra level Digimon, serving intentionally as a DNA Digivolution of Saber Leomon and Eldradimon, but you could also throw Metal Etamon in there. And they continued that tradition this year with a new model, the Wind Guardians model of the Pendulum Color, introducing a new level 7 Digimon, Kernamon, intended to be a DNA Digivolution of Pinocchimon or Puppetmon and Hydramon. Oh, the Hydracy won't leave me alone. But Griffomon was also a potential DNA Digivolution half in the Pendulum Color too. And I feel so represented by Kernamon because Kernamon gets its name from Cernunnos, an ancient Celtic god who represented nature, flora and fauna, and fertility. Yes, it is a Celtic Digimon. Celtic nations rise up, Cymru and Byth Hoggin. I love the design. Taking, standard kind of reindeer antler horns and combining them with the horn instrument. It's inspired. And I'll take any love for the Welsh I can get. And speaking of showing some love to the Welsh, if you want to show some love to this Welsh YouTuber, I would really appreciate it if you checked out today's sponsor, Dogman Mission Impawsible. Dogman Mission Impawsible is now available on the e-stores of Steam, PS5 and 4, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One Series X and S. Based on the beloved book series created by Dave Pilkey. Yes, that's Dave Pilkey. Dogman Mission Impawsible lets you play with 3 characters, Dogman, Lil PD, and ATHD, in 5 separate worlds with 50 levels in total. Dogman Mission Impawsible brings the beloved book series to life. Dive into this action-packed, humor-filled adventure. The key to the city has fallen into the hands of a super bad guy, unlocking all the prison doors and releasing many evildoers. Help Dogman and his friends chase down the super bad guys in their most implausible mission yet. Switch between Dogman and his super buddies, each with their own special abilities and gadgets such as rocket boots, retractable claws, and dirt-proof pants. Dogman can dig underground and glide through the air, Little PD can hack gadgets and fit into small places, and ATHD can push heavy objects and jump long distances. Together, you can overcome challenging obstacles and defeat powerful bosses. As I said, there are 50 exciting levels where you can explore iconic locations from the Dogman universe, including the City Hall, Giant Marshmallow Factory, and the police station. Each location offers platforming and puzzle-solving challenges. And as I said, there's that teamwork, letting you switch between Dogman and his super buddies, each with their own special abilities to overcome obstacles and defeat bosses. So make sure you join Dogman and his super buddies, available now on Steam, PS5 and 4, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One, Series X and S. Right, next up is Digimon New Century, the ongoing Chinese Digimon mobile game that's had a lot of new Digimon this year. But in contrast to previous years, instead of having kind of individual evolutions, it's instead gone this year for much more high-tier, ultra-level style evolutions. This started last year with Taketomon, but this year we got Erlangmon, whose name comes from Erlang Shen, a Chinese god. Really interestingly, Erlangmon is a DNA Digivolution of Cherubimon Virtue and Metal Garurumon, which I think you can totally see in the design, but also that either intentionally or unintentionally leads it to looking like the Lost Frontier Spirit of Light evolution. We also this year got an Erlangmon Blast mode, which is our first Blast mode in a very long time. I talk about the Axel Blast modes and of course Beelzemon Blast mode a lot here, but now we have Erlangmon Blast mode too. I hope maybe we'll actually get an Erlangmon Blast mode Blast Ace card at some point in the future. And speaking of mode changes, we got Taketomon Wrath mode this year. As I say, continuing on from Takatomon's reveal last year. And this is actually our second Wrath mode Digimon, which makes sense because the other Wrath mode Digimon is Jupitermon Wrath mode, based on Jupiter, of course, the Roman god. And Takatomon itself is based on Li Jing, a deity of God in Chinese mythology. Wrath mode honestly is a little bit disappointing to me. I think what was so cool about Takatomon is that the design was incredible, but also that we had this little mouse companion with an app-link tail. People called me crazy for picking up on that, but looks like it's paid off, hasn't it? We'll talk more about that in a minute. The mouse turning into the trident is cool, but I'm missing that little Appmon nod. Then we've got Nezhamon, named after Nezha, a protection deity in Chinese Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, and a bunch of other stuff. This is supposed to be a Beelzemon and Volcanusmon DNA Digivolution or Jogress, and I can see it, but also, huh? Much like Erlangmon, this also feels like it could be the Lost Frontier Fire Spirit evolution of some variety. Like if Flamon got to Warp Digivolve or something crazy. It doesn't, to me, read like a level 7, but I still think it's a very cool design. I especially like the wheels. Then there's Jogamon, whose name comes from Joga, the Japanese reading of Chang'e, the goddess of the moon in Chinese mythology, and a bunch of other folklores. And this was such an unexpected Digimon. I did not see this one coming. Obviously, the moon and rabbits have a lot of significance in East Asian mythology, so it makes sense that we get a Digimon like this from Digimon New Century. Visually, of course, it immediately reminded me of Queen Beemon, who was revealed not too long before it. Again, we'll talk about Queen Beemon in a little bit in the Liberator segment, but also it being a big golden rabbit really evoked to me something like the lost Rapidmon Golden Armor evolution, or indeed if Suzy were to biomerge with her Lotmon in Tamers. It's a great design. It's a DNA Digivolution of Dianamon and Cherubimon Vice, which, yeah, Moon Rabbit with kind of evil rabbit, I guess. Makes a ton of sense. Again, I don't know if I see this fully as a level 7, but I mean, it works, it's fine. Also to note, at the time of recording, we have been teased that another new Digimon is coming to Digimon New Century. I feel like it's going to happen around the new year, so probably after this video comes out. It could even be for Chinese New Year, but it's some sort of Kirin or Draconic Feminine Digimon, likely again some sort of DNA Digivolution acting as a level 7 or ultra level for the Digimon, although there are rumors that it is supposed to be related to Ranamon and Calamaramon. It is strange how many of these New Century Digimon could be very easily attributed to specifically Frontier Spirits, even though they're not actually in their lore related to the Frontier Spirits, but this one may bug the curve. Alright, Digimon Liberator time. So Terromon was announced last year. It's based on an Archaeopteryx, which is sort of a bird and a dinosaur, I guess, but mainly a bird. It's also funny that it's called Terromon, and at least in the English dub of Digimon, we have a Terramon named after a pterodactyl, obviously a similar root word. That Digimon is called Terranomon in Japanese, which sounds a lot like Tyrannomon to English speakers, so it's confusing either way you slice it. But this year we got Terramon's pre-evolutions. Yolkmon, which is probably the best baby Digimon we've ever had. Cannot believe it's taken this long for it to literally be an egg with yolk coming out of a Digi-Egg as a baby one, but it's phenomenal. And Fluffymon, which is cute, but I think a bit of a boring Digimon in comparison to Yolkmon. Then Terromon, Galemon and Grand Galemon, they make sense. They're very good standard evolutions, I would say, for a partner Digimon, thinking along the lines of Greymon and Metal Greymon. There's nothing incredibly exciting about Galemon and Grand Galemon to me. They are cool, and I think Grand Galemon stands out more than Galemon, but for me, the line really does get good again once it reaches Zaphagamon, the Mega. It's a big bird knight Digimon, and really interestingly, it is considered one of the heroes of the Vortex Warriors. This name may be familiar to you. If it's not, it's fine, but this is actually kind of huge because we had only really known about the Vortex Warriors because of things like Medieval Gallantmon's Digimon reference book listing, but they'd only ever been alluded to. We'd never actually seen any other members beside Medieval Gallantmon. Now we actually get another member. This is also extra interesting because the Vortex Warriors and Medieval Gallantmon are not just Digimon things, but specifically derived from Witchelny. Witchelny is the world of magical witches. I've done a whole video on it, but it was this other Vpet that Bandai did back in the day, all about raising a little witch. And Digimon like Wizardmon, Medieval Gallantmon, and others are from Witchelny. So now we have Zaphagamon also with ties to that magical witch's world. Shoto even also runs a Medieval Gallantmon in the story now, which I think is pretty fun. Shumon was also revealed last year, but now we have its full evolution line, but not its baby and in training, which I think is a little bit disappointing. I would like to see those. I don't know if its in training form would just be a sock, but its champion form is Shumon. Its ultimate is Chaperomon, and its mega is Sendrymon. I've been saying Sendromon, apparently it's a soft L because it's a French story. We'll get to that anyway. All of these are meant to be based on fairy tales. Shumon itself could be a couple of fairy tales. Shumon, of course, is likely based on the elves and the shoemaker, but there are also apparently cultural versions where it's mice instead of elves, and that might also be a connection into Sendrymon later. Shumon ostensibly just continues that theme of Shumon. It becomes a bigger kind of squirrely mousy creature and gets roller skates instead of shoes. But its name feels very similar, I think intentionally, to another mousy Digimon, Tumon, and in turn, Chewmon. But it also, like I say, resembles a squirrel, so perhaps Squirrel Nutkin is the fairy tale? Or it could perhaps tie into a common misconception that Cinderella's shoes were originally made of squirrel fur. Snopes confirms this is false and it was never intended to be that way, but it could serve as an inspiration for Digimon creative regardless, kind of a urban legend turned into the form of a Digimon. From there, the inspiration gets a lot easier. Chaperonemon gets its name from chaperon, a sort of cape, but indeed also a reference to Le Petit Chaperon Rouge, the original title of Little Red Riding Hood. I love that she wears the big bad wolf as shoes, absolutely conquering it. She has a Molotov cocktail, beautiful design. And then we end on Cendrillon getting its name from Cendrillon, the French version or adaptation of Cinderella. I think it's very funny that she holds balls, but they are for battling, fighting tournament balls. It's such a fun idea to take that concept of the elegance of Cinderella and turning it into basically dance battles. There's also likely other cultural influences across various ages, but it's such a striking design and I really do love it. And now that I know that it comes from Cendrillon, the French version of Cinderella, it makes more sense that they're not ripping off Persona, although there is still some similar elements to that Persona. Some other new Digimon we got this year are Elizamon and Demetramon. They are partnered with Owen Dreadnought in the series, a very serious kind of character. For me, there's not a ton that's exciting about Elizamon. It's a little reptile Digimon. Wikimon suggests that its name may be a combination of Eddie and lizard, meaning frilled lizard in total, but also, of course, Eliza being a reference to things like Elizabethan cultures, and also maybe, you know, its evolution then is Dinosaur Miles Edgeworth, Demetramon, getting its name very obviously from the Dimetrodon. Still a reptile type and still having that kind of classic nobility vibe going on. In fact, nobility seems to be a bit of a theme throughout Liberator in general. We've got knights, Cinderella, we've got a noble dinosaur. But more interesting to me are the fact that we have already been teased Elizamon and Demetramon's evolution in Digimon Liberator. We don't know what they're called, but we do have these sort of silhouettes making them look a little bit more evil and vampiric and draconic, which might hint at a connection between Elizamon and Elizabeth Bathory, a serial killer. Owen Dreadnought also in the Tips 15 is said to run a Dragonkin deck, and we haven't really seen that yet, with Elizamon and Demetramon being reptiles, not so much dragons. I do kind of see this Elizabeth Bathory and dragon, vampire, maybe even basilisk connection being something we're going to see in these evolutions, and I'm very excited for it. But I'll cover them more in the 2025 video when we finally see them. We are also due at any time an evolution line for Ghostmon, a brand new evolution line for it. As I am finishing this video, we are starting to see hints towards that as Demimeramon and Ghostmon cards have started to come out. I do think it's likely that we probably won't see the Liberator exclusive evolution line for Ghostmon until January, as they did just reveal the Bakemon card for Over the X. But when that new Ghostmon evolution line is finally revealed, oh, you will see it in 2025, right at the start of 2025, and in my 2025 wrap up. In the novel side of Digimon Liberator, we're also getting new evolutions. And the first of those very early doors were new evolutions for Impmon, who is partnered with the main character of the novel. Those being Punkmon, Loudmon, and Heavy Metal Dramon, all themed around music, specifically punk and rock music. I've seen some people detracting this, saying, oh, it's so boring that Impmon's new evolutions are just kind of variants and recolors of Guilmon evolutions. First of all, while they may be variants, they are far from recolors. There are tons of cool new design inspirations and elements. Punkmon having the word punk in digicode across his knuckle dusters. Heavy Metal Dramon's wings being made of guitars. It's like it's taking the GUI from Guilmon, and instead of Guil or guilty, it becomes guitar. But also, this is actually a huge callback to something really cool about Impmon from Digimon Tamers, because on Kanaka's blog, he says that Wiz originally suggested Impmon actually be Takato's partner back in the day. So these new Impmon evolutions in Liberator are far from lazy recolors, as some people claim, and actually a huge homage to what might have been for Impmon. We might have very much seen a Magidramon equivalent for Impmon in that show, which could have been Heavy Metal Dramon. This is that kind of what-if craziness that I love to talk about, personified in Digimon. Some people have said this means that Beelzemon is the Gallantmon equivalent of Impmon now. I don't know about all that, it could be, but I also like to see a Impmon full-on Jukemon, but I guess it's fine to have Beelzemon for now. Really quick, I did a whole stream about these, but we do have new members of the Royal Base, evolutions of my boy fan Beemon. I know Digimon Liberator was made for me thank you Bandai. We now have a new champion in Forge Beemon, which keeps that B suffix alive in the family, no longer having to pivot to wasps for Waspmon and Tiger Vespermon. But speaking of Vespermon, we now have a final answer to what a non-Tiger Vespermon would look like. It would be a pre-evolution to Tiger Vespermon. And then we have Queen Beemon, the queen of the hive. Oh my god, she's so amazing. I have wanted something like this forever, and I love that we now have two distinct evolution lines for Fan Beemon to Waspmon to Vespermon to Tiger Vespermon, and my much preferred line, Fan Beemon to Forge Beemon to my goat, Cannon Beemon, and Queen Beemon at the end, who has her more small kind of humanoid form, but also this big Queen Bee throne, which is so appropriate. We also got a new evolution line for Sangomon and Shellmon. This is very much the theme of Digimon Liberator, is obviously introducing new Digimon, but also kind of adding lines, very anime style evolution lines to Digimon that perhaps haven't had them and haven't been treated super well in the past, and Sangomon and Shellmon are a good example of this, getting Marine Bullmon and Ryugumon. Marine Bullmon gets its name from the sea bull, the literal translation of Umiyushi, but either intentionally or unintentionally, that also makes it a variant of Bullmon, just like kind of how Marine Angemon is technically an Angemon variant, even though it's technically also not an Angemon. So Marine Bullmon has some connection to the Hope Armor Digimon Bullmon now, which is fun. And then Ryugumon gets its name from Dragon Palace, which is the undersea palace of Ryujin in Japanese tradition. But it's also a double meaning on Ryugumiyushi, which is a name for some sea slug species in Japan. Really fun line. I love Sangomon and Shellmon getting a full visual anime style line. It's a lot of fun. Then we also have Polar Bearmon, who is an evolution for Frigimon. It's a winter sports polar bear. I don't know if you can consider Frigimon evolutions long overdue, but I guess you could. What's fun about Polar Bearmon though is also it feels like the lost Chakmon evolution. I know a lot of people don't like Daipenmon for Chakmon. You could definitely throw Polar Bearmon in there instead. It's not a great combination of Korikakumon and Chakmon, but perhaps you could consider it a better one than Daipenmon. It then digivolves into Skadimon, which gets its name from Skadi, a Jotun and goddess in Norse mythology. It's a very interesting design with ice skates made of ice, but I think the thing that's most interesting to me is this Yukimi Bottomon-esque thing inside. We're going to talk about this a little more in a minute, but this is kind of the year of the Bottomon. We have this in Skadimon. We have the 25th anniversary anime logo, of course, featuring Bottomon because Bottomon first appeared to Tai and Kari. And there's even something a little weird about Bottomon coming up in a second. This year we also got Dinomon. This is the non-mechanical Tyrannomon Mega following the line of Tyrannomon and Master Tyrannomon versus Metal Tyrannomon and Rust Tyrannomon's much more mechanical side to Tyrannomon's branches. Dinomon even evokes Flamedramon a bit, and I love its original Vpet lock on its arm, cementing it as fitting into Tyrannomon, the basically original Digimon Vpet mascot's line. Also, how the hell did it take over 25 years for us to get just Dinomon? We've had Dino Rexmon and Dino Tigermon and all sorts of other Dino qualifier Digimon over the years, but never just Dinomon? That's crazy. And then completing a bit of a trio with the Frigimon and Tyrannomon evolutions is Sonorizomon evolutions. This is probably my least favorite set from Digimon Liberator so far, which is a shame because I do adore Sonorizomon. But first of all, we have Landramon, which is certainly a design. I think I prefer Golemon for Sonorizomon here, or even Cyclomon. There has been some hubbub about whether this is finally completing our trio of Earth, Sea, and Sky Dragon Digimon, because of course for many years we've had Airdramon and we've had Seadramon. There was an abandoned Earthdramon many years ago, and then since then we've had things like Cordramon and Grounddramon, which could be seen as the Earthdramon Digimon. It's not been decided one way or the other as far as I am aware, but you could consider this the Landdramon for now, but I still think I'd like to see a proper Earthdramon one day. It then digivolves to Preganomon, I think a weird misstep. It's a great design and apparently is evocative of things from like Godzilla and Toho, and I don't normally mind kind of like more random out there Digimon evolutions, especially in things like the Vpets, but I think specifically for Liberator, which is trying to follow this very anime style evolution line for a lot of the partners, it just kind of sticks out. It still makes sense, it digs into the earth, I think it would be a good evolution for Digimon in particular, but hell, more evolutions from my boy Sonorizomon are always appreciated. And then the line ends on Pyramidamon. Very cool that we get some ancient Egyptian elements for Sonorizomon, makes sense because it's a sand lizard. It's a big Exodia pyramid guy. It's not one of the most inspired designs ever, but I do think it's fun, and I'd love to see it interact with Pharamon one day. And also finally this year, Espimon got its missing evolutions in Digimon Liberator. Not in Digimon Ghost Game where it debuted, it only got to digivolve into Hover Espimon there. Not in Digimon Seekers where it featured pretty prominently as a side character, but finally in Digimon Liberator, Espimon gets its ultimate form, Oblivimon, a UFO Digimon, which is crazy. I talked about this in a short, but in a video where I gave missing evolutions to Ghost Game Digimon, Dry Designs and I came up with a UFO evolution for Espimon. We did make it the Mega though. Oblivimon in Digimon Liberator then then digivolves into Invisimon. And this is a little bit disappointing, I will say. It's a very humanoid mega, which we get a lot of in Digimon. I think I would have liked to consider more of the hovercraft and UFO elements into the Mega Digimon, but it's still cool. And I do think it's fun also that it's holding this stealth plane. When we had the ultimate be a fighter jet, it's almost like our ideas were flipped. Again, Bandai did not steal our ideas and probably didn't even see our ideas, but it is fun that we called these elements of the Espimon evolutions, and I'm just glad to finally see Espimon get the full line it was denied by the show it debuted in. And as I spoke to earlier, this continues that year of Bottomon, because if we look in the actual dome, the glass dome of Oblivimon, the brain piloting it appears to resemble a weird brainy version of Bottomon or Yukimi Bottomon. Odd. Yes, it also resembles the head of Espimon, but it's actually not placed in the same position as the ears of Espimon, but it is basically one-to-one with the ears of Bottomon or Yukimi Bottomon. And the final Digimon Liberator Digimon of this video is Machinamon. I did a whole video dedicated to this guy because it is fascinating to me. Machinamon is kind of a big player in this arc we're in of Digimon Liberator, which kind of feels like we're heading towards the end game, possibly, especially with this week's chapter. But Machinamon is really mysterious. We don't really know what's happening with Machinamon yet, other than it's related to Unchained, the sibling of Close, and there is a new type of Digimon first encountered in Lacuna. The big takeaways here, of course, is that it is half mechanical, half biological, half creaturey, and one of its halves has what is straight up an app link from Digimon. People said this might not have meant anything, it was just a design thing, but now we have confirmation that in Digimon card game World Convergence, Gatchmon and Globemon are gonna be there. So I think it's more likely than ever that my theory that Machinamon is gonna bridge the gap between Digimon and Appmon could be happening, at least as a mechanic in the card game. We will see, but I do think it's a phenomenal design, and I am always happy to see more Appmon inclusion in regular Digimon media. This I think is going to be a pretty important Digimon. And finally, that brings us to our collaboration part of the video. This year, Digimon has had some really interesting collaborations, and the most notable one to me so far is the Monster Hunter Digimon collab, because this was on nobody's radar, not everybody's radar. And in these Monster Hunter Digimon collab Vpets, we are getting Laius or Wrath Greymon and Xeno Garurumon. These are probably ultimates, perhaps DNA Digivolutions of Greymon and Rathalos and Zinogre and Garurumon, but you never know, these could be champions or something else. It is interesting that we're going to have these predominantly Monster Hunter monsters on these Vpets, but also something that resembles Greymon and Garurumon, with the designs very evocative of specifically Monster Hunter monsters, but with art by Kenji Watanabe. We've actually had no more details on the Monster Hunter Digimon Vpet since pre-orders closed, but next year they're obviously going to release and we're going to get a lot more information, so I'm excited to see what happens. These are some really great Digimon, and I just want to see what levels they are, maybe some Digimon reference book listings for them. It's super exciting. I wonder if we will see a collaboration with Digimon in Wild, Monster Hunter Now, or otherwise. It's unlikely, I think, but Monster Hunter has had some crazy collabs in the past, so I would like to see the Monster Hunter side of this Monster Hunter Digimon collab. And then in November, we got a tease for Godzilla's 70th anniversary that Godzilla would finally be doing a collaboration with Digimon in a Godzilla Vpet of some kind, which is going to feature basically a War Greymon variant that is themed entirely around Godzilla. We have no name for this guy, no level, I feel like it's going to be a mega level, and no other details of the Godzilla Digimon collab, but it's of course likely a Vpet. But what's really interesting is this is a very full circle moment for Digimon, as back in the day on the Digital Monster 5, they basically dedicated an entire Vpet to Godzilla homages. Dark Tyrannomon being like Godzilla, Cyclomon like Gigan, Divisramon, Destoroyah, Tuskmon, Space Godzilla, Flymon, Mothra, Deltamon, King Ghidorah, and Raremon, Hedorah, with Wikimon even saying that Metal Tyrannomon may be based on Burning Godzilla, Nanomon may be based on Oxygen Destroyer, and X Tyrannomon may be based on the Showa era Godzilla suit, which is huge, honestly. I think it's very cool that a brand that went from kind of homaging and treating Godzilla as a senpai now gets to work alongside Godzilla. It's very cool. I want to hear a lot more about this collab. I'm also kind of hoping we get some other Godzilla Digimon fusion monsters. And technically not Digimon, but I'd be remiss not to mention it because we have had it before, but Medabots and Digimon crossed over this year. In the past, we got a really cool Medabots inspired Digimon in Omedamon, a combination of Metabee and Rokusho. This time though, there is no Japanese or worldwide Digimon mobile game, but there is unfortunately no new Medabots Digimon, but there are new Medabots inspired by Digimon. We got a Beelzemon themed Medabot called Beelzebub Satan, a Gallantmon or Dukemon themed Medabot called Duke Knight, Mugendraborg based on Mugendramon or Machindramon, Apocally the End based on Apocalypmon, Magna Knight based on Magnamon, and Imperial Drago based after Imperial Dramon. Plus a bunch of other stuff like Davis skins and a ton of other cool Digimon stuff. This was a great collab to see. I wish Digimon had got to engage in this too on their side, but there's just no Digimon mobile game or even Vital Bracelet, rest in peace, to talk about. But that that is it. Every brand new Digimon from 2024 and Digimon adjacent things gone over, explained, and hopefully some details you might not have known or things that you might appreciate about them. Been a weird year for Digimon. We've had some really great things. Obviously these collabs are huge and we've had a lot of stuff in Digimon Liberator, but also we had the death of the Vital Bracelet, the news of Digimon games basically completely going away. They said coming soon at Digimon Con and we're almost at the next Digimon Con and we've heard nothing. It's been a great year I think for collabs and for specifically the Digimon card game, and I really like Digimon Liberator, but I'm hoping in 2025 we start to see the brand kind of open up a little bit more. There is some great news on the horizon. Apparently like the Digimon animation team has increased 5-fold, so I do think we're likely to see a new Digimon anime in the new year or in 2026, and this is no way near the worst year we've ever had for Digimon. I've seen some people saying that, but this has been actually a really strong year. It's just not been focused on anime and video games and more into the Vpet collaboration and TCG side heavily. So let me know your favorite new Digimon introduced in 2024. I want to give a huge heartfelt thanks to every single person who has supported me this year, whether it's on Patreon, channel memberships, leaving a comment, liking a video, hitting me up on social media to say something cool or just to say that you appreciate what I've done. I get to do this because of you. I can make all the videos I want, but it's you who watch and tune in every time, or maybe just for the big ones that you really enjoy, that mean that not only I get to keep doing this, but I get to do this as my full-time job. If you'd have told little 10-year-old Karn that talking about Digimon on the internet would be not just something he gets to do, but it is his entire career, he would never have believed you. So thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful new year. I will see you in 2025 and take it a little bit easy in January, and then we're going to ramp things up as we get towards Digimon Con. I appreciate you all so goddamn much, and I'll see you next year when we go digital. Bye bye.